Remaining members of UB40 have maintained all along that I left to pursue a solo career, which I have said is a lie, and this is my resignation letter. I refused to tour for more years for silly money in order to keep Reflex and its staff employed. Nothing at all has changed since we all decided things had to change. I don't agree with most of the band's recent decisions. I don't even know who makes them anymore. In short, I've had enough, and that's what happened. I never left to pursue a solo career. Duncan phones me up drunk and says, "I've joined the band, Sally." And I went, "You are kidding." And he went, "No, I'm not kidding." And I said, "Well, I'm very disappointed in you, but I can't tell you not to. I'm seriously disappointed in you, Dunk."
Ever wonder how a reggae band that preached love and unity could tear themselves apart so brutally that brothers refused to attend their own father's funeral? The story of UB40 isn't just about music. It's about betrayal, bankruptcy, prison time, and a family feud so toxic it makes the Kardashians look functional. Behind those feel-good vibes of red, red wine lies a web of scandals that would make even the shadiest record executives blush. Red wine. From drunk driving crashes that ended in tragedy to management fraud that left millionaire musicians broke, this is the dark side of Britain's biggest reggae export.
He had an accident, and in fact he suffered a criminal injury in a pub, and he used the criminal injury compensation money to buy the instruments to launch UB40.
In December 1978, 8 unemployed friends from Birmingham decided to form a band.
Truly was no jobs for anybody, mass unemployment, and we figured we'd have more chance starting a band.
They named themselves after the unemployment benefit form they were all filling out, UB40.
The name come from the suggestion of a friend of ours. Well, why don't you call yourselves UB40?
You know, you're all on the dole. You've all got a UB40 card. It makes sense.
Little did they know they were creating a musical empire that would sell over 70 million records worldwide, but also a family dynasty destined for destruction. The Campbell brothers, Ali, Robin, Duncan, and David, were at the heart of UB40 from day one.
Did 3-part harmonies, yeah. I can remember my mum coming in thinking it was the radio when the 3 of us were singing, you know.
Their father, Ian Campbell, was a respected Scottish folk singer and hardcore communist who initially told his sons to buzz off when they announced their reggae ambitions.
Obviously, the influence of our father is great because we grew up surrounded by music and musicians. All of our lives, if you showed any interest at all, he would thrust an instrument in your hands, you know, and say, "I'll get you lessons if you want," you know. But like most kids, you're diametrically opposed to what your parents are into, you know, so we were looking for something else.
But these weren't just any brothers forming a band. This was a family with deep musical roots, diverse backgrounds, and unfortunately, explosive tempers.
For many generations, the Campbell family has been a singing family, not a performing family.
Ali Campbell quickly became the golden voice of UB40, his distinctive vocals making hits like Food for Thought,
Waiting for the manna, coming from the west,
and I Got You Babe with Chrissy Hind into chart toppers.
They say I love won't pay the rent before it's served.
The band's multicultural lineup was revolutionary for its time. Members with English, Welsh, Irish, Jamaican, Scottish, and Yemeni heritage, creating a sound that would define the 1980s. But there was darkness lurking beneath those socially conscious lyrics. Ali Campbell wasn't just singing about social injustice, he'd lived it. Growing up in Birmingham's rough Balsall Heath neighborhood, he started smoking cigarettes at 8 years old, the same year he was arrested for burglary charges. This wasn't some misunderstood kid stealing candy. This was a child already entrenched in criminal activity before most kids learned to ride bikes. And the criminal connections didn't end there. Years later, Ali Campbell would find himself producing a song written by none other than Reggie Cray, one of Britain's most notorious gangsters. In a Birmingham club at 3:30 a.m., completely drunk, Campbell encountered Cray's so-called adopted son, Peter Gillette, who began singing lyrics that would make your skin crawl. You act so macho all through the day, but in the hours of darkness, you're the other way. When they asked if he wrote it, Gillette revealed it was penned by the infamous Cray twin himself. But success breeds secrets, and UB40's biggest secret was yet to be revealed. The first real tragedy struck in 1987 when Ray Falconer, the band's beloved sound engineer, was killed in a car crash. Ray wasn't just their tech guy, he was family. But here's where the story gets disturbing. The driver of that fatal car was his own brother, Earl Falconer, UB40's bassist. Earl had been drinking heavily that night. When police tested him after the crash, his blood alcohol level was nearly twice the legal limit. His brother Ray died because of his reckless decision to drive drunk. In June 1988, Earl was sentenced to 6 months in prison and banned from driving for 3 years. Imagine having to live with killing your own brother through your stupidity. The band tried to keep this tragedy quiet, but it changed everything. Earl had to take a break from touring even after his release because, as bandmate Norman Hassan brutally put it, he couldn't play in prison, so he's working his fingers back. The guilt ate away at the band's dynamic, and Earl's bass lines, once the heartbeat of UB40's sound, never quite had the same soul. However, an even more sinister scandal was brewing behind the scenes. While UB40 was singing about peace, love, and social justice, the British government was convinced they were dangerous revolutionaries. In one of the most bizarre chapters of the band's history, MI5, Britain's elite security service, was secretly spying on them throughout the 1980s. Drummer Jimmy Brown revealed the shocking truth. MI5 were tapping our phones, watching our houses, all sorts. We thought, haven't they got criminals to catch? We were just a bunch of potheads, smoking weed and playing music, talking about solving the world's problems.
I think it was in the 80s that we found out that we'd been under surveillance. My father was politically active and he found out that he was under surveillance too. A friend of his who worked in the telephone company, British Telecom, he came to the house. He wouldn't ring him. He came to the house and said, I just want to tell you, your phone's being tapped, because you're a subversive. And that happened with us. And, I certainly wasn't surprised. I was surprised to find out that not only were they tapping our phone, but they had an office across the road from our studio in a factory, and they had cameras set up and they were filming the people that were coming to and from the studio. So what they thought we were plotting in the studio.
The surveillance was confirmed by MI5 whistleblower David Shaler, who in 1997 revealed that the security service had spent years and years monitoring UB40, genuinely believing these reggae musicians were communist revolutionaries plotting to overthrow Margaret Thatcher's government. The paranoia reached such levels that Ali Campbell considered suing MI5 to retrieve recordings of their phone conversations. But they decided against legal action for a terrifying reason. Campbell later explained they were worried about ending up with poisoned umbrellas sticking out of their backsides, a reference to the infamous 1978 assassination of Bulgarian dissident George Markov, who was killed in London by a poisoned pellet fired from an umbrella. The band was literally afraid the British government might assassinate them for pursuing justice. Think about that for a moment. A reggae band from Birmingham was so feared by their own government that they were under constant surveillance, their every phone call monitored, their movements tracked, and when they considered fighting back legally, they genuinely feared for their lives. But if UB40 thought government surveillance was their biggest problem, they were wrong. The real explosion was yet to come. In January 2008, the music world was shocked when Ali Campbell, the voice of UB40 for nearly 3 decades, announced he was quitting.
Well, I've been with the band now for 28 years, and for 4 of those years I've had serious gripes with the management, and I had to say I couldn't work with this management team anymore, and the rest of the band members have gone with the management, and I've gone off on my own.
But this wasn't a graceful departure. This was war. Ali didn't just leave, he fired verbal missiles at his own bandmates, claiming he was deeply unhappy with administrative practices and launching a full investigation into the band's financial handling.
The things he said in the last 10 years are just so nasty and so obviously so untrue. He's just told horrible lies about not just me, but Duncan and other members of the band. I mean, Brian, our sax player, they have been best friends since they were 10 years old. They've been inseparable since they were 10 years old. And he doesn't talk to him, has said just foul things about him, implying that he's stolen money off him. He stole money off the band. So did I, apparently. It's just unbelievable.
The other 7 members hit back hard, releasing a statement that basically called Ali a selfish egomaniac.
So there was a kind of a backlash against him when he left, but we carried on.
Ali made a very simple decision. He chose to pursue his solo career over continuing to work with UB40. But Ali wasn't done. He claimed he was actually fired, while the band insisted he walked away. The truth? We may never know, but the venom was real. Mickey Virtue, the keyboard player, quickly followed Ali out the door, citing the same management issues. Then came the ultimate betrayal. Ali's own brother, Duncan, was invited to replace him as lead singer.
And luckily I had another brother who we always sang together as kids.
When Duncan asked for his blessing, Ali reportedly said, "Carry on, why would I object?" But it was all fake politeness. Ali never spoke to Duncan again after that conversation.
His bitterness is incredible. Not only has he not spoken to me or any other member of the band, he hasn't spoken to Duncan.
The family feud reached its most heartbreaking point in November 2012 when their father, Ian Campbell, died at age 79. This should have been a time for the family to come together to honor the man who gave them their musical foundation. Instead, Ali Campbell didn't show up to his own father's funeral.
But also, both my father and mother have passed away since Ali left, and he didn't come to either of their funerals.
Robin Campbell later revealed the devastating impact. Ali never came to our father's funeral, which broke Duncan's heart. Because he adored his dad. Those kind of rifts never heal really. Imagine skipping your father's funeral because you're feuding with your brothers over a band name. That's next level petty. But wait, it gets worse. In 2011, the music industry was stunned when 5 members of UB40, including Ali Campbell, were declared bankrupt. Despite selling over 120 million albums worldwide and having massive hits that still play on radio stations daily, these musicians were broke. The bankruptcy proceedings revealed a web of financial mismanagement that would make Bernie Madoff proud. Ali Campbell's net worth plummeted from millions to essentially nothing.
Unfortunately, the tour that he booked at that time under his own name just bombed. He was selling 200 tickets in a 10,000.
The man who had sung Red Red Wine to sold-out stadiums was filling out bankruptcy forms. Saxophonist Brian Travers, drummer Jimmy Brown, trumpeter Terrence Oswald, and percussionist Norman Hassan also declared personal bankruptcy. The band's corporate entity collapsed like a house of cards. This wasn't just bad luck. This was the result of what Ali Campbell called years of financial abuse by their management. The managers were later struck off for their handling of UB40's affairs, vindicating Ali's claims. But the damage was done. Decades of success had been stolen from them by the very people they trusted to protect their interests. The feud intensified when Ali formed his own version of UB40 with former bandmates Astro and Mickey Virtue. They called themselves UB40 featuring Ali, Astro, and Mickey, leading to immediate legal action from the original band. Both groups were now touring under variations of the UB40 name, confusing fans and creating chaos in the booking world.
We're going to do a new tour in January, but we're going to try and make it like a reggae review to go with the Guns in the Ghetto thing.
Ali was particularly savage about his brother Duncan's vocal abilities, telling anyone who would listen, "I sat back for 5 years and watched my brother Duncan murdering my songs. We're saving the legacy." When Duncan suffered a stroke in August 2020 and was hospitalized, reporters asked Ali if this might be a chance to patch things up. His cold response? Not really. The original UB40 fired back with their own statement, documenting Ali's constantly changing band names and accusing him of deliberately deceiving fans. They claimed Ali had used variations like Ali Campbell and the Depp Band, Ali Campbell, the legendary voice of UB40, UB40 Reunited, and dozens of others, always with the UB40 name prominently displayed and Ali's name barely visible.
He spent nearly 5 years as Ali Campbell.
The voice of the legendary
voice of,
He had
etc.
different ways of billing himself.
The legal war cost both sides hundreds of thousands of pounds. Brian Travers revealed in 2015 that they had spent over £250,000 on barristers and legal fees, money they couldn't afford after their bankruptcy.
He found a new circle
all told him
of
he was
friends and
great.
family that were all telling him that he was the reason the band existed.
He said, "The days when nothing happens fill me with dread because you still have to pay them." But the tragedies weren't over. In November 2021, Astro, who had become Ali's closest collaborator in his new venture, died suddenly from a short illness.
The British musician and rapper Terence Wilson, also known as Astro, who was part of the group UB40 for more than 30 years, has died after what his bandmates said was a short illness. He was 64.
Then, in the same year, Brian Travers, UB40's legendary saxophonist and one of the founding members, lost his battle with brain cancer. The band that once celebrated life through music was being decimated by death. Duncan Campbell's health problems forced him to retire in 2021 after his stroke. And in November 2023, Earl Falconer was hospitalized with meningitis after returning from a holiday in Ibiza. The man who had already lived with the guilt of killing his brother in a drunk driving accident was now fighting for his own life. So where does that leave everyone today? The landscape is devastatingly clear. Ali Campbell, now 65, continues touring under the name UB40 featuring Ali Campbell, with his current net worth sitting at a shocking $2 million, a fraction of what he should have earned from decades of global success. He's performing in 72 different countries, from the Solomon Islands to Uganda, maintaining there's absolutely no chance of a reunion with his brothers.
We're going to be in the South Pacific and all over the world, basically. That's like I said, we can play anywhere, and we do.
Robin Campbell, now 70, leads the original UB40 with the legal rights to the name. While his exact net worth isn't publicly disclosed, he's one of the 4 surviving original members, still touring extensively.
The current UB40 lineup includes Robin on guitar and vocals,
Earl Falconer on bass, estimated net worth $1.5 million, drummer Jimmy Brown, and percussionist Norman Hassan. They've added new vocalist Matt Doyle after Duncan's retirement.
He sings the old stuff so well, so beautifully.
Matt Hollywood Doyle, as he's known, that's his nickname.
Duncan Campbell, 66, was forced to retire from music in 2021 after suffering a stroke. The man who replaced his brother Ali and endured years of public humiliation about his vocal abilities is now battling health issues in silence. His net worth remains undisclosed, but given the family's financial struggles, it's likely modest. Earl Falconer, 68, the bassist haunted by killing his own brother in a drunk driving accident, continues performing despite his own health scares. After nearly dying from meningitis in 2023, he's back on stage with an estimated net worth of $1.5 million, far from the riches he should have accumulated. The band members who declared bankruptcy in 2011, including Brian Travers, Jimmy Brown, and Norman Hassan, never fully recovered financially. Despite selling over 120 million albums worldwide, most of UB40's original members are worth far less than they should be, victims of management fraud and legal battles. But perhaps the saddest part of this whole saga isn't the money, the legal battles, or even the debts. It's the fact that a band that brought joy to millions with songs about love, unity, and coming together couldn't keep their own family united. Ali Campbell, now 65, remains adamant that there will never be a reunion. In recent interviews, he's been crystal clear. I don't think I've got anything to say to them. There's no way there'll be any getting together with them again. He refers to the original UB40 as the dark side version and claims they're failing miserably while he's flying high. The irony is thick enough to cut with a knife. A band named after an unemployment form born from the struggles of working-class Birmingham achieved massive success only to destroy themselves through greed, ego, and family dysfunction. Their music preached unity, while their reality was pure dysfunction. As both versions of UB40 continued touring in 2025, selling out venues worldwide, fans are left to choose sides in a family feud that has no winners.
UB40, and there's UB40 featuring Ali Campbell. So if you want to go and see you on tour, you look out for UB40 featuring Ali Campbell.
Yeah, I'm the one that sang all the hits.
The legacy of one of Britain's most successful bands is forever tainted by the reality that sometimes the greatest enemy of success is success itself. The Campbell brothers, who once stood together against Margaret Thatcher's Britain, who sang about social justice and unity, who brought reggae to the masses, can't even be in the same room together. And the saddest part, their father, Ian Campbell, the communist folk singer who initially dismissed their musical ambitions, never lived to see them reconcile.